Clark Spencer from the Miami Herald covers the Marlins. Joins us now with a look at the Miami Marlins as our NL East week previews continue. And Clark, this Marlins team, I guess right now they're finally settling into something. They seemingly have some sort of direction or plan as opposed to either win a World Series or sell everybody off.
Well, that's been sort of the problem for years is that, you know, they build it up and then it comes down. And I mean, we all know about the big one was after they won the 97 World Series and promptly dismantled the entire team. And they went from World Series winner to 108-game losers the following year. And then there have been a lot of ups and downs since then, and they've never really stabilized. But, yeah, now they're probably going to have – I know they're going to have their highest payroll they've ever had this season. A lot of that has to do with just salary increases for players, Stanton, Yelich, Gordon. They got Chen. I mean, so they're going to have the highest payroll. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be any better, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that I think if the average fan who doesn't watch baseball all the time, maybe just watches their hometown team, looked up and down that roster, a lot of unknowns. Stanton, obviously, a very big name, but who are some of the other guys they're counting on this year?
Well, Christian Yelich has emerged their best player. I mean, I don't know if you watch the World Baseball Classic, I think finally the country got to see him for the first guy. The guy's he's legitimate star now, 300 hits. Outfielder. And you got me?
Yep. You faded out for just a second there.
Sorry about that. So, yeah, Yelich, obviously, D. Gordon's back this year. Remember, he had the 80-game suspension last year.
Right.
You got Realmuto, their catcher, probably one of the best offensive catchers in the league emerging. They've got some talent out there. Marcell Ozuna, who was a starting outfielder, All-Star game last year. He faded in the second half. So they've got – it's a weird lineup. In fact, I just wrote about this today. You know, they had Barry Bonds as their hitting coach last year, and then he wasn't asked back. And they brought in Mike Pagliarulo. And in my story, I mean, this is really weird. It's kind of a befuddling enigma, if that's a little redundant. But they were fourth in the majors batting average last year, fourth in the majors out of 30 teams. And yet they were 27th in the majors in runs scored. So it was like the carpet didn't match the drapes type of thing. And so they didn't touch their lineup whatsoever. They left it exactly the way it is. And, of course, in the aftermath of the Jose Fernandez tragedy, you know, they had to go out and get some pitchers. And basically what they did, they got kind of innings eater guy, Edinson Volquez. You know, he's been around. Dan Straley from the Reds. They threw him in the rotation. And they beefed up their bullpen. And they already had a pretty good bullpen. So what their hope is that they can get like 5 innings out of these starters and then they got an 8-man pen and get to their pen, which they consider their strength.
Clark Spencer with us talking Marlins baseball. And Clark, their everyday third baseman looks like he's not going to be with the club to start the season. Can you talk about Martin Prado, his injury, and what impact that'll have on the ball club?
Yeah, he has a hamstring injury, hurt playing for Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, they don't expect him to be out more than a couple weeks in the regular season. So he'll be back fairly shortly. But the problem with the Marlins is they have no minor league depth. I mean, their minor league system is ranked as the worst or next to worst in the majors by most people who kind of study those things. They don't have really any rising talent in the minors. So if anybody gets hurt, they're in trouble. And, of course, everybody gets hurt. And as we all know, Stanton's been hurt like pretty much every year he's been here.
Right.
So, you know, if anybody gets hurt, they're in trouble. They got 8 solid guys, in their lineup. They've got, Ichiro Suzuki, who I wrote about yesterday. He's, coming off the bench. I mean, the guy's still productive at 43. But they're really thin after that. They've got no one in the minors. I mean, when they won the World Series in 2003, they brought up a guy named Miguel Cabrera in June, and he was like a huge part of that team when they went on and won the wild card and won the World Series. Well, they don't have anything even remotely close to a Miguel Cabrera, sitting in the minors. So they're going to have to do with what they've got,
which makes it difficult for them to make that key move, right? At the deadline, like you've got what you got, and it's going to be very hard. They're going to have to get real creative if they want to add something.
Oh, it's tough for them. I mean, they're look this past year, this offseason, they would have loved to have had a top tier pitcher to put in Jose Fernandez's old spot, but there was nothing on the free agent market, and the guy who was really the best pitcher who was acquired in trade was Chris Sale, who the Red Sox got. Well, the Red Sox had prospects, top quality prospects that were attractive to the White Sox and enabled them to pull off that deal. The Marlins had nothing like this. They've got nothing they can trade. And so it's going to be, you're right, it's going to be really tough if they're somehow in contention at the trade deadline to be able to pull off and get, a rental that can get them through and help them the second half of the season.
Hey, Clark, has the new stadium helped stabilize them at all and allow them to kind of be more, I guess, of a, less of a Heckle and Jekyll team like they had been in the old stadium? Like, has that stadium been a big factor, or has it not had the impact people thought?
I would say it has not had the impact that people thought. I mean, they opened that stadium in 2012 to a lot of fanfare. They went out and signed, if you'll recall, Mark Burley, Jose Reyes. I mean, they had they went all out, and the whole thing was a flop. And they haven't drawn in the new ballpark. They haven't, in terms of stabilizing. No, they haven't had a winning season. They haven't had a winning season since 2009, which I believe is the longest drought in the majors for any club not to have a winning season, ongoing drought. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2003 when they won the World Series. Only the Mariners have gone longer than that without a postseason appearance. So in terms of stabilizing, I mean, the only thing that really stabilized, is the knowledge in people's minds that the team's not going to be going anywhere. They're not going to move. They're locked into that ballpark. But in terms of them improving, it hadn't happened.
So, Clark, what's the expectations? Wild card, division, something else?
I just don't see it with their pitching. They just don't have the pitching that can compete with the Mets or the Nationals. I'm talking about starting pitching. I just cannot see this team, competing for a playoff spot this year. I mean, everything would have to happen perfectly. They have good defense or a good defensive club. That helps. They have a great bullpen. Their lineup should be better, but if you don't have the guns in your rotation, you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, listen to their starting rotation. It's Edinson Volquez, who's going to be their opening day starter, Dan Straley, Wei-Yin Chen, Tom Kohler, and Adam Connolly, who struggled this spring. That doesn't exactly strike fear into the other teams in that league. I mean, when you look at it and compare it to the Mets and the Nationals and what they have and their pitching cast, it doesn't even compare.
Marlins beat writer
I'm looking at like most people are looking at it, maybe a 75 to 80 win team.
Yeah, it sounds like Philadelphia, Atlanta, Miami are all kind of hanging around in that same area behind Washington and the Mets, who seem like they are head and shoulders above. Marlins beat writer Clark Spencer from the Miami Herald with a look at the Miami Marlins and, of course, our NL East week previews here on the Sports Bash. Thank you so much, Clark.
Anytime, you guys.